is the last part of another round thing coming out of a hole.
Calistoga.
What?
I think it's a token.
What a big token, dude! You found my big copper.
You got any foo-foo juice?
No, I have
Good for. Oh, alright, man, that's right.
What'd you say?
Good for something 20 cents or 30 cents? It says cents. Yeah.
Is it thick like a? It is. Oh, dude, it's pretty on that side. What's it say? What's it say on there?
You can clean it up.
We were both over this so many times. Good for tong. Tong, whatever tong is. You found, that's a big token. That is nice. Good work.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
I'm beside myself, happy.
Well, there's the spring again though too. So we're like literally, there's the road, there's where you stop, this is where you know what I mean? Like, yeah. These are the lost roads of the Wild West. Once the only routes through the ranges and valleys of what was a new territory when it came to horse-drawn wagons and European pioneer roads. These roads were being hand-chiseled into the hillside 100 years before tractors would come to change the shape and flow of roads and routes. With their ability to change the terrain to fit the track, our huge road cuts and retainment we take for granted now that once only pick and shovel made. Napa County was one of the first counties of California. Nathan Coombs laid out the original town site of Napa in 1847, 2 years before the California Gold Rush. Between 1848 and 1849, in a single year, the nearby San Francisco population expanded from around 1,000 to 25,000 people due to the gold rush, and by 1850 California achieved statehood, making Napa an official county. It's the large valley that makes up the north end of the San Francisco Bay, with the saltwater marshes having once penetrated as far into the valley as the current town of Yountville previous to the ditching and draining of the valley floor for farming and agriculture. Even now, the entire area is still subject to flooding, and for this reason, most of the roads, especially those used in the wet season, were high roads, as the low roads tended to get rutted and swamped out in the winter. Some of these roads had been made and used before the gold rush by the Spanish, with land grants in the 1830s establishing the areas now known as Vallejo and Benicia, which are the port cities located at the mouth of the Napa River and the Carquinez Strait, which sees the outlet of most of California's large interior rivers. These are some of the first roads leading up to and out of one of the first major ports of the West Coast. Also drawing people out into these back valleys of the coastal range at the time were the many natural springs with their healing waters and resorts being built among them, drawing in large numbers of people traveling many days and nights by stagecoach to bathe and taste the waters that still secretly trickle from the cliffs and canyons of this magical backcountry of the Bay Area. The coastal ranges of California run north to south, creating the long valleys and the fertile farmlands that cover the bottoms of each. The roads, from the start, had to run from one little valley town to the next over steep little ranges. The average trip to the next valley could often require a 4-day trip, with 1 day spent laboriously climbing to a stage stop or toll house at the summit, as many early roads were privately developed and required a toll to be paid by travelers. Not wanting to be camped out in the wild, these rest stops would act as overnight stopping points, and then the following day, the descent into the next valley in town would be tackled. The entire world still running on horseback at this point. Then, supplies gathered and business done, the return trip could begin. The terrain during summer months is very rough, arid, and the natural springs were a blessing and a necessity for any travelers on these roads. Many of these springs would end up being hailed for their healing properties, some having natural carbonation from the source. Many large and fancy resorts sprang up in these more remote canyons and valleys, and began drawing in a constant stream of travelers from the larger cities of the Bay Area. Full resorts with dance halls and bathing areas and full accommodations for people to stay. But these were all just latecomers to these spots where life-giving water emerges from the dry mountainsides even in the hottest summers. For 10,000 years, the First Nations of the West Coast knew of and used these springs, based their trails and their journeys on them. These springs were sacred to the indigenous peoples. They were considered to be power spots, places to heal the spirit. The waters were used for purification ceremonies, for sacred gatherings, and for tribal meetings. Those who lived in the Napa Valley, who were called the water-going-out place people, who were later called the Guapo by the Spanish for their good looks, which was pronounced Guapo by the American settlers, visited these springs regularly, as did the Pomo, the Mayacamas people, and undoubtedly many more whose identities have been lost in prehistory. Many times our current roads were laid down directly upon their trails, leading from one spring to the next. Often still, the rhythm of our travel, our route, and our path are dictated by those original stopping points, even though many are now paved with asphalt, and the reason for them is lost to the motorist who whiz by with no more need to pause, where once all travelers had stopped, bent a knee, and rested along the way. Late evening, and I am just on a huge, we'll call it an orbit, a roundabout, circling the whole thing. Thought we might go look down this dish, although I think that this is the old vineyard, is what we were told. So, but beautiful spot. Let me go look. Came over just to check out the old windmill stuck in the trees now. It's been a long time since it turned, but the shaft is still running down. You see that? And look at the bottom of it. It's a pool of water with ferns growing out of it. See that? And it runs off down the creek. And we actually passed by blades of it on the ground. Let's creep a little closer. There's big copper wire still running. Beautiful. There's the actual pump itself. And yeah. This is another on the other side of this is the other side of the spring where we found the silvers and stuff. And this runs off this dry country looking like that. Beautiful. Okay, I gotta make my way back out of here. It's kind of late, and I see they had a pipe running from here too, going that way down to the winery. Okay, we came, we saw. Beautiful. These details lost out here in the hills of the valley as it modernizes and the world forgets that all this happened. It happened. I saw some of the last parts of it as they went. Oh, it sways in the wind now with the trees. 26 Merc, right there?
Yeah, over here somewhere.
Congratulations, dude. Yeah, and all the other stuff was over. I mean, this was a hub.
Yeah.
This is worth working. Beautiful big old harmonica, Reed. Laying here in the sunsets of it, following this old stone walkway up to where it meets the road. Oh, that was so much fun in the rain. It's about to start, and as you can see, we need it. Those used to be green hills full of forests. There's, you got that light on there? 19. Focus for, that's a 40.
47 or no? It's a 60. It's a 6, huh?
No, it's a 4. Anyways, we are wrapping up the.
There we go. Yeah, man, it looks like a 4. That's so hard to see.
You just have to scrape that edge and see if copper comes out or not, you know? You figure that out.
I'm gonna detect it next to a clad one I know is clad, but it almost looks like a 6.
Sure
Is
looks
that
like a 4. I'm seeing a 4.
But yeah, I think it could be the tail coming up from the 6, maybe.
Swear, this thing's got the.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell, but I think it might be a 4. So hard. Could be a 6, but yeah, that's.
The dogs are done and we are done. And
hours ago.
we have to get out of here through many gates and long roads.
All right.
And it is that dark. That's what I was doing, I was getting my flashlight. You pulled out some, almost could be so recorded. Okay, here we go. This is, if you're still watching this video, if you have watched all of the first, I apologize for it being long, but this was just an awesome permission, a really rare and special one that a lot of people just don't have the chance to get to and see. You're talking, it was their main stop at the top of the mountains in between the valleys that are at a different spot from me. It was the main stage stop, the main resting, switch your horses out on the buggy stop at the top of the mountains with a spring site at the ridge line in between the neighboring valley to me and then the ones that I live in, and for it to be so local and close and untouched, and to be able to start to hunt it for 2 days and then get the feel of the land and hone in on it, and then to be able to find this level and quality of relics, and then the locations to be able to pull silver coins that are 100 years old from out of where horses and cowboys actually stopped and tended to their horses, and families unloaded and had their picnics, and the stage company switched out their team for the next leg of the journey, and to be able to walk that road and experience the thin strip of land that everybody was stuck traveling in those days, and get the feel for it, to be able to collect the iron pieces. This is actually wood went through here, and it would have gone over to another identical one, and it's what came down to different animals and held them at their equal distance apart as they labored to haul people and things through fields to plow and up that road itself. Modern mixes, well, not modern, but early 1900s, late 1800s mixes of bottles, beautiful medicine bottles. Our 3-in-1 oil company. 2 levels of ponds with the lid on there. This, for me, the most special, and it looks like they actually shot it at some point. I thought that was where it sat there and knocked back and forth, a little dinger, but I think it was shot. Uriah pointed that out. And often these would be in a row along the top of the horse, above the horse, so it may have been shot off of its little iron bar. But regardless, it is, you know, people call any bell this shape a Conestoga bell because they were so often used with horses, but for them to really be a Conestoga bell, they need to come off a Conestoga wagon. This is close enough. This is, you know, I will call this my Conestoga bell. I waited my whole life to be able to actually touch one and see one. I live out in the west at the end of the Oregon Trail in the Wild West. And, you know, where you had the round chronal bells, the ones that look like a Santa Claus bell out in the East Coast. This was more indicative of the West. But I guess bells, I looked it up, and they were used to keep travelers from harm and to ward off evil spirits, and it's tradition to have them on your horses. So, yes, just like a gypsy bell. So, really special to me to find that in that location. I'm just like, wow, that means a lot to me. That's my stagecoach road from my home valley bell, horse bell. To be able to find this and this and this, basically these two in the spring. Oh, it's the, you know, the main beautiful spring pouring out there. This just makes such a beautiful noise. So it would have been on something, would have pulled a door open, a drawer open, something. If that's not a treasure box pull, I don't know what is. And literally laying in the muddy waters of a fern, overgrown fern spring at a stagecoach stop. I don't want to repeat it too much, but I'm just like, this is so special to me. It's not just an old drawer pull. That's magic. That is magic. Same thing with this dime. If you've watched the Quest for Details, you've seen me pull dimes out, to pull a silver dime out from between ferns at a really old spring with, you know, a lot of history to it. Just amazing. Here are our buckles, couple of buckles, nice green patina on there, matching little D buckle, little even fainter copper buckle. So those are very personal items, came off of the people there. I'm actually fumbling over my words because there's just so much to say, and I don't want to make you spend too much time, but I do want to make sure that I go over these details because incredible hunt, just the bell alone. I don't know how many times I've picked this up in the last 24 hours and just thought about its history and what it's seen. And this is mostly gold coated still, and you can see the copper, could be rose gold. I do not see any 14s, but I do see there's a very thin layer over possibly copper, but it doesn't look like it's a doesn't look like it is thinly plated. Looks like it is thickly plated. The trunk side, that's pretty soft stuff. Those are all the marks that I can spot all the way around. Just a solid layer of yellow though. I don't know about that one. The more I clean it up, the more I wonder why it didn't tarnish up if it was laying there for over 100 years. Huh. And there's its little hinge point. Rose gold colored metal, might be copper, although these here are what most copper and brass watches that I find look like. These are two more. So this is the middle part where the guts go, all the workings and stuff. There's the winder, and then one would have a solid back, and then one would have a glass face usually. So these are the ones that held the glass face onto one side of this. And if you were watching part 2 of this whole adventure, you saw me find a back plate, a solid plate to one of these. Anyhow, there's the faces of two more watches, and that's what the metal usually looks like if it sits in the ground. So 3 watches represented there. beautiful door knockers, silver coins, our 5-cent tray. To remind you that back then, 5 cents was, you know, a lot more money than it is now for sure. Spoons, thinner spoons, this wrench for square nuts. Notice it's not hexagonal. It might even be some sort of wagon tool or something that went with, you know, Model Ts or something early on. You know, it's definitely a square nut wrench. This is very old style spoon, very thin copper, and just time crushed it flat. So that's indicative of being really old. 2 more bottle stoppers. These are our jar lids. Very beautiful. This one's my favorite, probably that I've ever found. So it's from the New York Consolidated Fruit Jar Company and just has a really nice logo on there. People on the New York shores probably find loads of those, and the color is just really nice. The opal of the glass just happens to be really nice. This might be the star of the day. I looked online and I could not find this poison bottle for any less than $250. And some of the people were asking incredible prices for it. But that probably is the best bottle I've ever found. It's the Owl Drug. He's sitting on top of Mortal and Pestle. These are well known. They're all over the internet for sale. Not all over, but I mean, they're on there. And it was easy to find. And it's my first actual poison bottle. So they had to be this shape. They're supposed to be the shape and color and be clearly marked so that people didn't get poisoned by accident. And it's the cobalt blue that is so rare and hard to find, unbroken, and it is unbroken, and just so wow. Don't know if I'll sell that or keep it, but it is beautiful. It's beautiful. Probably gonna sit in my collection for a long time. Thing that I own. This probably went on the outside of some sort of saddle. I tried forever to piece that together. It says B and O, and then I can't make out the next 2 letters, and that could be another O. I don't know. These little pieces that went around it had some reading, and I imagine that maybe the iron center is gone out of it, and it reminded me of something that would go on the side of a saddle. And it was in the floor bed of the road itself, so not sure about that, but said saddle adornment to me. So this, we decided, was the world's first fidget spinner. It goes on your finger and it spins around, and they patented that back in March 8th of 1915. Or the girls thought it could have also been the top of a weather main, and maybe the weather main part is gone. I looked all over for spots where it had attachment points and broke off, and I didn't really see them. So it looked pretty clean. If you know what that is, if you've seen that before, let me know. These are a little piece that I didn't even barely clean up, but you can see the little pattern work all the way around it. Maybe a little brooch, definitely a little piece of jewelry. Sorry I didn't clean you up yet. And then this little piece of suspension. Something went through there and through there. A belt and a strap. Make sure I give you all the little views of these things. Delicate little pieces of life. These are all the little rivets that we found, hand-pounded copper rivets. When you clean those up, half the time they're reds and greens from patina. They're actually really beautiful. Or a little zipper off of probably a metal coin purse or a little delicate purse. Harmonica reeds. Lots of music instruments going on here. Big old iron spikes. More square nails. Coffee mug handles and gears. Our bullet selection. Oil cans. Had to save the oil can. salt shaker with the daily salt in there. A bottle produced at a company in the mid 1900s, a valley over, in the mix. Little handle. Might just hang that on a little branch somewhere and leave it as a mystery for future investigators. These say Levi Strauss and Company on there. Some of mine do also, but I have a feeling these are old and green and pretty authentic. You can almost see San Francisco from the top of that mountain. So pretty cool. Definitely if you were on a horse trying to get anywhere in this direction, you would have had to ride on that road from San Francisco. There were no others at that point. Very few. This, we don't know what this is. It's heavy cast iron. There's the, well, I guess I didn't clean that up as much as I should have. I see that there's even more detailing to it there. But had more of a handle that broke off. I think it opened something up on a hot object. You know, probably a wood stove, maybe a fancy Wedgwood. But that could definitely get brushed up and cleaned up and be very, very cute. This is the most intact lantern that I have ever found. So there is no date on the back of that. I scrubbed it up and I looked, but that's the little turner that turned the wick to make the wick go up and down to make the flame bigger or smaller. Here's the actual creature itself cleaned up. I just took it down to where you could see all the parts but left the green patina and got the dirt off, and this is what was underneath. Beautiful condition. Look at all the, didn't get all the dirt off yet. There's the bottom of the wick workings, still intact. And it's not delicate either. It's still got a lot of strength to its copper or brass, whatever it is, for being so thin. But check this out. I realized there's the hinge on that side. After I'd cleaned it up enough to be able to see the parts, I flipped it open. Oh, look at that. So I cleaned all the little holes out. Look at that. Beautiful. So there, when you hear me saying lantern part, there is the full assemblage of it. This is just one version. Here's another that's likely another setup, but this one, for being so delicate, stayed preserved. That cap was on there, and then there was dirt plugging the whole thing and encrusting the whole thing. So crazy, 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 crazy. You probably saw me find the rest of all of this. So the fork, that's a 3-prong iron fork with a wooden handle. That goes back. That's earlier than a 4-prong fork. Iron chisel from working the rock up there. That's a piece of a handle of a butter knife. I believe that's the butter knife. On and on and on. So, oh, we forgot to do this. We need to open this up to see if there's treasure in this. Oftentimes people kept gold powder inside of bullets like that. So no gold powder. Who knows? Maybe it fell like that on accident. Maybe, who knows? But we checked it out. We made sure. Schrader valve. That's the air valve from like a Model T. So, there you go. That is... I'm going to be fondling and drooling over all of this stuff for a long while still. And hopefully you caught all the details. Hopefully you enjoyed that adventure. That's a spot that you go to for, you know, that's a spot where it's lucky to get to. Amazing that I got there. Kind of a once in a lifetime thing. So, very, very thankful for the privilege. I appreciate that a lot. Glad to be able to go there and see it before things change too much. Hopefully they won't. Things do. I'm sure the owners can agree with me on that. Things are changing quickly, in fact. So, Everybody, remember to appreciate the details when they're there. That's the best way to spend your time, save your time, own your time, and take care of yourself while you're doing it. If you get a chance, take care of each other. And I will see you at the next possible location that I can find to show you cool things, to remind you why we hang out in this crazy, crazy world. Everybody, carry on. I'll see you next time.